may be. This is Heidi's story. Heidi endured abuse for years and came to Hubbard House with her sons and a special light to bring their own brightness. I now welcome Heidi to share your story.
My life up until I got married was pretty idyllic. My childhood was happy, my family was close, it was my parents, my sister, and me. I thought I knew what a good marriage looked like because of the model my parents presented. They loved each other very much and were married nearly 61 years before they passed away. They were very happy together, and that's what I always wanted. That's what I envisioned for myself. I just assumed that I would meet the man of my dreams, get married, and the happy life I'd witnessed from my parents would be mine. I first met the man who would become my husband when he started working in the same office as me. He was 11 years older than me, but nice, polite, and very sweet. Eventually, I moved on to another company. 9 years later, though, believe it or not, he was hired where I was working once again. And we rekindled our friendship. And within a very short period of time, he asked me out. There were 2 weeks between our first date and when he proposed. Then, just a few months more after that, we were married. It seemed fast, but I was really happy. I loved him, and I envisioned that happy life together. Then, on our honeymoon, things changed. I had never given much thought to my weight. I never really needed to. But we were on our honeymoon. I ordered a good meal for dinner, and he gave me a disapproving look. He told me I shouldn't be eating like that because I needed to watch my weight, because we wanted to have kids. Well, there was nothing wrong with my weight or my health, so I really couldn't understand it. I had never really thought about or understood mental or emotional abuse. So when it started to happen to me, I didn't even realize that that's what it was. I'm a smart person, but I never saw it coming, because he knew how to manipulate me. One day, I came home from the store to discover that he was doing a woodworking project on our kitchen table. Missing from the kitchen table was a vase that was very important to me, that I kept there always. While he worked on his project, the vase was knocked off the table and shattered. I'll never know if he did it on purpose or if he was just negligent. But when I said something to him, he began to rage at me. He told me that if I didn't want it broken, I should have removed it. I couldn't understand because I wasn't even home when it happened. So how would I have known to move the vase? But when I tried to tell him that, it enraged him even more. He grabbed me and began to shake me while yelling in my face, screaming that I was always trying to blame others for my faults. I believed him. Everything was my fault. One day, I got home from work so late that he had already eaten, so I cleaned up the kitchen, I dished up my own supper, and finally sat down to eat and watch a few minutes of TV. Well, I had no sooner started eating than my husband jumped up and started yelling at me, telling me that we were running out of time and that I needed to stop being lazy. We spent the rest of the night shampooing the furniture. Many nights with him were spent on chores like this, anything so that he could make sure I wasn't being lazy. In fact, when I was 8 months pregnant with my second son, my husband decided to use the electric broom. but discovered that I had not cleaned the lint trap. He was furious, enraged. He threw the sweeper at me, but I ducked, and it broke into pieces behind me when it hit the wall. He spent the rest of the day telling me how lazy and useless I was. Now, at the time, I was 8 months into a difficult pregnancy. I had a 2-year-old. I was teaching and finishing writing the thesis for my master's degree. I did everything at the house, cooking, cleaning, you name it, with no help from anyone. Looking back, I can say that it really was not that big a deal that I forgot to clean that trap, but it took me 20 years to be able to say that just a few years ago, because he made me feel so guilty about it. I tried to leave several times, but he wouldn't let me out of the house with our sons. They are my life, and I was not going to leave without them. My husband would tell me often with a look of pity on his face that no judge in his right mind would ever give me custody if I left him. It was terrifying and hopeless because I believed him. But I also knew I could not risk losing them. He would tell me that even my family, my tight-knit family that I loved so much, was against me. He said he had spoken to my father, who told him that I needed psychiatric care because, as he was so fond of telling me, I didn't think like a normal person. I was so scared and hurt that my father would say that it never even dawned on me that my father wouldn't say that at all. But my husband had conditioned me to just believe what he told me and to never question him. Meanwhile, things kept getting worse. He had opened a new bank account in his name only and moved all of our money into it. He got a P.O. box and would not give me a key. He was isolating me from my friends, cutting off my supports. I was feeling increasingly trapped and beaten down. So I contacted Hubbard House. I began to meet in secret with an outreach advocate. She was wonderful, and she helped me plan my eventual escape. As it turned out, that day came quickly, much sooner than I anticipated. On the 4th of July of 2003, we took our sons to a park, and my husband was acting off. So I asked him if everything was okay. It was like a switch flipping on. He began screaming at me right there in the parking lot. Our boys were 4 and 7, so I grabbed them by the hands and I said we were leaving. My husband ran after me and grabbed me. He took me to my car and he threw me inside. He tossed away the keys so I couldn't get to them, and then he began raging at me and threatening me. My sons were behind him, screaming and crying and trying to get to me. He turned around and yelled at them to be quiet before turning back to me over and over and over. Finally, he stopped. The rest of the day, I was terrified to say anything in case it would set him off again. I knew that we had to get away. Now, at this point, my husband was monitoring what I was doing, so I couldn't speak freely on the house phone or just get in the car and go. So I had to wait out the weekend until he left for work on Monday so that I could call my Hubbard House advocate. When I told her what happened, she encouraged me to leave, to bring the boys into shelter. I still had so much fear of losing them, but I knew that this was what I had to do. Not only did I keep custody of my boys, but I kept them safe. Hubbard House even helped keep my pets safe. They arranged emergency boarding for us. My advocate helped with navigating how to get my husband out of the home so that the boys and I could eventually return. Hubbard House was wonderful. Unfortunately, in my case, safety didn't mean true freedom. I had a very nasty divorce that lasted about 10 years because of my husband's continued manipulation. Even after the divorce, I went through years of feeling that there was just no hope for the future. I was filled with self-doubt and had no self-confidence, all because of the years of abuse I had endured. But through counseling, I came to learn that I wasn't the problem, he was. I started to realize eventually that I was no longer living in that darkness that I thought would surround me forever. There even came a day when I realized, wow, the boys and I actually have a pretty great life, and we still do. It's been very important to me to create something good out of what I endured. And specifically, my family and I wanted to give back to Hubbard House. So in 2008, my mother started a group called the Bag Ladies. We meet each month to assemble and deliver 45 comfort bags for the children who come to Hubbard House. Each child gets a drawstring bag with a cheerful design, filled with the items I know my boys needed or found comfort in while we were in shelter. Toiletries, a small stuffed animal, a book, a snack, a soft pillow, and a flashlight. The flashlight idea actually came from my youngest son. He had grabbed his little Fisher-Price lantern when we left our house in such a hurry that day, and he kept it on all night there at the shelter so that he wouldn't be scared, or so that he'd just have light with anything new that he faced. I lost my mom in 2017, but there was no better way to honor her legacy than making sure the Bag Ladies continued, and we did. We are still going strong, supporting kids in shelter 15 years after we started. I earned my master's. I earned my master's degree. I love teaching, both at the University of North Florida and at a college prep homeschool program with the most amazing kids. I am proud to say that I now volunteer directly with the kids at Hubbard House. After seeing the difference those advocates made for my sons, I am so happy to be able to be that positive influence for others. I'm so proud of my sons and their strength. They are always there for me, even when I don't ask. They are kind and empathetic and focused on others. I have the best daughter-in-law anyone could ever ask for. I have amazing friends and a church family I love. I am not defined by what I went through. I am much stronger than I ever gave myself credit for. Sure, I still feel like a work in progress, and I am. I still struggle to sit still because it feels like I'm being lazy. I find it hard to compliment myself. But let me stand here today and say, I am strong and smart, compassionate, resourceful, and happy. I am happy. My mother always said that the Bag Ladies was an example of making lemonade out of lemons. And I feel that that's what I have tried to do with my life. I was given a really large glass of really sour lemonade and told to drink it or else. But at the bottom of that cup, where I stand here today, things are sweet. Thank you.